Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. This is my mom. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I feel awkward saying it. So, she put up with a whole lot. And if it was not for her, we're inside her store right now, inside her business. So there might be a beep or two. If it was not for her helping, I would not be here right now. I'd be in prison for a 20-year mandatory minimum. I would have not gotten the year of jail credit because she went to the judge and sat outside his office day after day when my lawyer would do nothing to get the jail credit, and she sat outside for a couple weeks to get that time off. That's another thing. And there's more things than I can count. This when everybody else just wrote me off, and now, there were times when I wasn't allowed to be at the house, and that was because I chose to be crazy. Didn't have to do that. But one of the first things I was going to talk about was there was a time when I was selling drugs, and I would have to turn my phone off, but people would find me no matter where I was at. And one of those nights, when I had my phone off, somebody knocked at the door at 3 a.m. at my mom's house. And what happened there?
That was a mistake. I was sleep deprived already because I was worrying about Spencer, but he has a little sister that was about 10 years old at the time.
Which
so,
I wasn't allowed at the house because I was doing that stuff. You found a piece under my pillow when I was 14 on the 4th of July. That's another story. We can't say the word, so we'll call it a piece. But anyway, I'll let you continue on that.
But when the doorbell rang, I was startled. I had protection on my nightstand, and but it just the protective side of me kicked in, and the anger and the fear, just a combination of emotions and nerves. And so I went down the stairs at my house. You go downstairs and there's a landing, and then down the next set of stairs. Going down the first set of stairs, I have these light panels so I could see through the little windows that there was a short man out there. And so I knew that it had to be drug related. And so my adrenaline kicked in, and it said I was touching about every other step as I went down the last flight of stairs, and slung the door open, and I thrust toward him, like yelling at him, why are you at my door? And my chest, I guess that caught him off guard. And so when I leaned
Chest
into
checked.
him, it threw him off balance, and he fell down the steps. There's about 7 brick steps going up to the door, and he busted his head. And so once he was off balance and I could see he was scared, I just started kicking him in his butt all the way to his car.
So he bear crawled, bear crawl on all fours all the way back to his car while my mom kicked
He
him in his
was trying
butt.
to get up, but anyway, I just wanted him in the car and gone. So then after he left, I hooked the water hose up and sprayed the blood off. So, because I thought that's going to look like a crime scene in the morning with kids on the bus going by, not knowing what happened. But anyway, thankfully, accidentally,
Well, it scared the piss
he
out of him. It
left.
scared him off, and then that let him know don't
Yeah.
come back. But there's something that, as opposed to other parents, in certain situations, which I've heard of, I've seen on TV, where they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? My mom's never been scared and in her whole life of anybody, and she'll say, if you tell her somebody's bad, she'll be like, well, I'm badder, let them come see me. And drug dealers were scared of her, not because she'd call the cops, but other reasons, which there will be other stories of later. Also, this is an anniversary. This is a unique anniversary for us, which I'm going to talk about at the very end. Something very insane happened 2 years ago
Unusual.
today, where I broke 2 bones and she lost a finger. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. But first, when I was about 14 or 15, I hid everything well, didn't I?
Yes.
Like, teachers would stick up for me and they'd be like, you've got the wrong kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a guy who's actually doing a 28-year prison sentence right now for a lot of stuff that he did that was crazy. Not going to say his name, but I had sold him something and he had told on me, and my mom got the notice before that. And you sent me to my aunt's house, who lives in Grundy, an hour and a half away. I thought I was just going to have a fun trip going to hang out with my cousin, Chase. And to celebrate selling a lot of what I'd sold off, there was a big opium buy. I bought a 1/4 ounce of blow, and I was going crazy with that. And definitely not advocating. I say this every time. 44 friends of mine under the age of 35 have died from drugs and drug-related violence, but this is a part of the story. So I went with a 1/4 of blow on me tweaked out of my mind, not knowing what was happening. And basically, you sent me there because you knew ahead of time, right?
I I have a lot of friends, a lot of places, and they were trying to help me watch him. But anyway, the he said, I think Spencer's in some bad stuff, and he was a former coach of Spencer's when he was a little boy, and he knew Spencer was a good kid, and that he was just caught up in the.
I watched too many movies, George Young and stuff like that, and I thought I was going to be the next Scarface or something of the sort. You know, got a little bit delusional with that.
Anyway, so I sent Spencer to my sister's house, and who lives in deep Southwest Virginia, and that it is. I led a very sheltered life. Part of that is the reason that I didn't know how to navigate a lot of situations because it was out of ignorance. But and a lot of things I did, I would do differently today. But you just do the best you can, and everything I did came from a place of love. But anyway, he did go down to my sister's house, and he played football, and everybody there loved him.
No, this one particular trip, the trip that you sent me down there to get away when Drug Task Force was looking for me that day. And then when I got to the house, my cousin told me, somebody you sold to's told on you, you're in some deep stuff. And my mom calls me and she says, basically, they're probably going to come raid the house. And how to get it out. So I explained to her inside of the wall of the computer, I pulled the wall off, there was a space this big. And that's where I had, what fell out?
Well, I didn't even know because I haven't even smoked pot, so I don't know what things look like.
She thought it looked like parsley.
It looked like broccoli, but there was just tons of it. Like the back of the computer, it kept falling out and falling out.
I could hear it through the thumb thud. And she goes, what? She says, I thought you were just doing a little bit. I was glad I was 100 miles away at the time because if I was there, I'd have got, oh man.
It's good that it's good he was too far away from me to get my hands on it.
Oh man, that would have been bad. How was I, 14?
Yeah.
14, yeah. And something that was also unique, I just told my mom this. My aunt didn't come to me and say it that night. She just didn't say anything. Well, I stayed up all night doing blow, the quarter ounce that I bought, and she comes to me and she's like, listen, give me what you got, I know you've got it. And I gave it to her, and this was just an ironic thing. Rather than just flushing it down the toilet or pouring water, it was water soluble, it was 100%, it was raw flake, in one piece that was fish scale. And she put it in her purse, and she drove an hour and a half to a mall, backed up like all inconspicuous, like, and put it down. Could have thrown it in the woods or anywhere. I think she watched too much CSI or something, but she's never seen nothing like. I don't even think she drinks or anything ever in her life. She's never smoked a cigarette?
She's never smoked a cigarette, tasted alcohol, like she's like really on the straight and narrow.
Oh, she's funny though. She need to get her on, both of y'all on here talking, telling some of these stories.
She could be a comedian though.
Oh man, but it was that was, and so after that, they were looking for me, and it was people in suits, right? It wasn't standard police. Like it was
it was investigators, and they did come.
And I was out of the state, which, yeah, she got me out of the state on that one, and I went to.
I just heard so much. One of my friends worked at the juvenile detention center that is in our area, and I'd heard so many horror stories mostly about what kids did to other kids. And knowing he was 14 and would be in there with like 17-year-olds, and Spencer was small for his age, and
yeah, and I didn't even hit my growth spurt till I was like 15. I don't think
he was small, and it just scared the life out of me. I knew that
something bad could happen.
I knew that it would not be good, and I felt like if we. Well, then I made a worse mistake because that's when I sent you to that rehab as the teenager for smoking pot. And, well, evidently he was doing more than smoking pot. I thought that was all he was doing. So.
Yeah, it was. But when everything fell out of the computer, that's when she realized, what in the world? And there was always a saying that she had. She always told me, basically, I'll support anything you do in life. You just have to follow 2 rules. Don't use drugs and don't sell drugs.
Right.
And it was don't use drugs at first, but the don't sell drugs came in when she found out that that was an addiction. Just like a compulsive gambler thinks they're going to hit every time. Like I thought every time I was going to work my way up to being a millionaire and retire. A retired drug dealer, which was a delusional thought from watching too much TV, because that does not happen. They do fill up prisons though. But anyway, I'll save some
And
of the
cemeteries.
Oh yeah, that's 44 friends. When I say 44 friends of mine have died, they're people you know,
A
right?
lot of
Don't say
these,
names though, just
no,
for okay.
a lot of these people I know, they're really good people.
Like we know their whole family, right?
Yeah, and it just breaks your heart. And I honestly feared more than anything else that Spencer would be another statistic. So I'm just thankful.
Yeah, there's a lot of
He
luck on
survived.
there. But now just going on to it, not do too much today. Something that happened 2 years ago today. I walked out onto a porch that did not exist. I thought there was plywood on it, and I fell about 8 feet. I landed. I landed on my feet, and I tried to take a step, and I realized, oh, your right leg doesn't work. I had to climb a ladder on one foot. I hollered up for Casey, and I said, Casey. She said, what? Because it was like 3 a.m. I'm obsessive compulsive, and I looked outside and I thought I saw a shadow on the car. I thought somebody had done something to the car, and I was just going to step out. So basically, imagine if you step 1 foot out and then you fall. That's what happened. She said, what? I said, I hurt myself. She said, oh, God. And I climbed up on 1 foot, and I guess shock set in. I started shaking. My heel exploded from pressure, and I could wiggle my toes and move my foot. I heard your foot's not broken, if that's so. Not true. So I'm shaking on the floor. And Casey I'm telling her, you got to clean my foot. It could get infected. It could go to my heart. You got to clean it. And she's like, ugh, ugh. And sorry about the phone. But anyway, we're in the store. Apologize for that. I'm shaking. I'm shaking. And as I'm shaking, I accidentally start farting. So as I start farting, like every shake, I fart like boop, pop, 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 as she's trying to clean my foot. And I said, I'm sorry for farting on you. I'm not meaning to do it. And that made her bust out laughing, and we were able to crack up a little bit after that. Well, I called my mom the next day, over and over, and I said,
No, it was same day.
the same day, yeah, that morning. And I said, could you give me an ankle brace? I said, I told her what I
It
told
was
you.
about 8:30
Told
in
you
the
I wasn't
morning.
hurt.
And he said, first, I want to tell you I'm okay. And I said, what did you do? And because I know, he says he's okay, he's probably not. And he said, they were replacing the wood on the porch. And he said, I fell through the porch and I've hurt my foot, but it's not broken because I can wiggle my toes, and but it's hurt, and I need an ankle brace. And I said, well, I can't come right now.
Well, she
And
told me she'd get me one, but I kept calling her back over and over, and I was like, "This is weird. Usually, if I tell my mom
I'm there
hurt,
fast.
yeah." And then I kept calling her, and it ended up being about 4 to 6 o'clock, and I called, and she said she was at the doctor, and I'm like, "What's going on?" Because she's, she beat cancer survivor, and anytime she says doctor,
Well, I hadn't shown up with his brace because that's not like
Yeah.
me. Normally, I'd be there within an hour.
Yeah, and
have it in hand.
But I'm an obsessive worrier, so when she said it, the doctor, I said, "What is going on? What is going on? Do you have cancer again? Tell me what's going on." And you said, "Well, you always have to find out, don't you?"
I said, you're not going to stop. I said, so I said, first of all, I said, I hurt my hand, but I'm okay. I did the same thing to him.
We lied.
I said,
Both lied.
I said, it's okay. I said, I am going to have surgery, because the first thing he thinks is,
Cancer.
Are you with the doctor? Are they testing you for cancer? Do you have cancer? Are you keeping that from me?
I'll give myself a panic attack.
Which is partly my fault, because when I was diagnosed with cancer, like in December, then later I didn't have the surgery until March, and I told my kids 1 week before the surgery because I didn't want them to worry. I wanted to have a game plan. And so the bad downside of that is now they don't believe me when I say I'm okay. But my finger, I said, it's hurt, but it's going to be okay. they're going to have to do surgery on it. So I didn't lie. What I didn't tell them is I was working on a piece of jewelry, and my finger got caught. The chain, it was my mistake. I let the slack build up on the chain I was polishing, which is about as heavy as the one he wears. And, and when it whipped around, it cut all 5 of my fingers, and I reached up to turn the machine off, but it gained momentum, so when it came around, it wrapped around my ring finger here, and it cut it off. So here's how it looks without my finger, but I had this really cool prosthetic tip, and so now I can sell my jewelry.
Hold it up close. You can't. I mean, that's so hard to tell.
I have to have it on straight, though. There we go.
Now, every once in a while, she'll leave it in a case, though.
Oh.
On accident.
No, not on purpose, but I have.
You know how, like a little kid, you do that like little trick with the finger, and it looks like you cut a finger off? I told her you've got to do that and mess with a kid and then let the finger fall in their hand so they could scream. I think that'd be hilarious.
I haven't done that to a kid, but I did do it to one of my daughter's friends. So.
Yeah. And, yeah.
He's a magician, by the way, so.
So it turned out she cut her finger off, and I broke my ankle and my foot, and I landed on one foot, so there was a crater of dirt and explosion.
It was a really, really bad injury.
It looked terrible. I sat at the house for about, how long, 2 or 3 days?
Yeah, 2 days before he went to the doctor.
Yeah.
And I was begging, and I just cut my finger off, and they're trying, I was afraid for him to see me, because I didn't want him to worry about me. And then finally...
She showed up to the doctor. I forgot about that. Casey realized it, but she didn't tell me. When she showed up to the doctor when I went, she had her hand bandaged up, but she had a little bit extra, but it looked a little shorter. So
I had them put extra in there to make
it look like she didn't have it. But Casey caught it, and she never told me. She said, and then she told me. I knew it back then. But yeah, so I had it was a serious ankle, and the bone on the side of my leg and my heel literally exploded. Even though the heel it's probably too gross to put up. They'd probably take it down. I have a picture of it.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's really bad. But I sat at the house for 2 days because I said, well, you know, I'm not taking pain medicine, so what am I going to do? But anyway, aside from that fact, there was one more thing I wanted to get at that was funny that I wanted to bring up. I robbed a drug dealer. I robbed a drug dealer, and I took back. He did me dirty. I basically made him who he was. Then he cut me off, started selling to the people. So not only did he cut me off to where I couldn't make any money, he cut me off so then I didn't have a connection, and then I was scouring around trying to find it. So I said, screw it, you know, I got you in this house, and you did me dirty. You cut me off selling directly. It was really dirty what he did, because he's in the one I told you about. Was in a 400 square foot apartment and was a complete junked out crackhead that. But anyway, robbed him, and all the stuff I took, for the most part, was stuff that people had traded him for drugs, and I gave a handful of it back to certain people who it belonged to, but a majority of it I kept for myself. But anyway, after I did this, they kind of suspected me, so you know, they told me they were going to call the police on me, is what they told me. And I'm thinking, yeah, how's that going to work? And then they actually called my mom and threatened to get me put in jail for robbing 2 heroin dealers. And they called my mom and threatened. What did they say?
Well, they said...
Don't say the names, though.
Can I say they had 2 kids?
Yeah, you can say
okay.
that.
Because she said, well, I have 2 little children, and he stole their Xbox.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you have a receipt for your Xbox? I think that's my Xbox, and I have the receipt where it was purchased. Mm-hmm. And so I was saying, go ahead and call them, or if you want, I'll call them. And her husband's in the background saying, that woman's crazy. You stop, hang the phone up. She's crazy. She will call the cops. Hang the phone up. And I said, well, I have a receipt for what I have in my house, and if you have a receipt for what I have here, then let's just sort it out.
They hung up and let it go.
It came from my house originally.
Not that one, but it was a situation, and it was so bizarre, the whole situation. And they did have 2 kids, but they definitely did not live with them at all. And everything got was basically traded from people who were on drugs. The car they had, the house they lived in, they paid the person for monthly in drugs and everything else. But it was funny because they called her, but they knew a little bit about my mom's reputation. You know, it's kind of a thing. You know, don't do it. She'll show up at your door, and she's not fearless. They say, even though she seems so sweet and everything, and she is. She's the sweetest person in the world. You good to her, she'll treat you better. You bad to her, and you better get out the way.
Well, I was nice to her when I told her to go ahead and call them.
Well, probably your calmness probably scared her too. And the day after this happened, I got a story I told about this car smelling like skunk. Remember? Yeah, and this was like the day before that. And the reason I had a boot knife and a knife in my boot was because of that. I thought I might end up seeing him, but he was just scared. None of that was going to happen. But that was something funny I figured I'd throw in there too. But anyways, well, that's about it. You
Can I
got
show
anything else?
them
Yeah, she designed this.
I designed a necklace. And think about anybody that's going through any type of hard time, because what got me through, what gives me strength and my calm, and the reason that I don't fear is because it's in the Bible. And I'm not a preachy kind of person, but I am very spiritual in my own personal life. And I designed this cross, and it's seen the little stones in it, and it's called When Life Falls Apart. And that is how it comes back together again.
It's magnetic, so it can come back together. But you can wear it either way, though, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
about
you can wear it. It's supposed to look like a heartbeat when it comes apart, but I like it together.
Now, just bragging on you a little bit.
No.
You've made some really cool stuff. Betty White, you made something for her.
I designed the ring for Betty White for her 90th birthday.
That's pretty wild, and it's actually through a guy who's local, who's really connected with a lot of those people, who owns a club.
He's a good friend of mine.
Funny story about that dude, okay? When my mom and dad first split up, this guy kept coming in the house. And I thought, like, this guy's trying to get with my mom. You know when you're a kid and your parents split up. And he kept coming in there, and I was mean and rude to him.
He mainly called a lot, and he'd hang up on him.
Yeah, I'd hang up on him.
And then he got Paris to hang up on him.
And then we were being terrible to him.
Don't talk to him.
But guess who this guy was, okay? This guy, not only was he not interested in my mom, he's gay. He owns a giant club here that's, you know, it's a gay club, you know, gay bar or whatever. And it's huge. And
he has a lot of California, Hollywood connections. And,
yeah, he invited you to go to a party at like the Playboy Mansion or something one time. But
I didn't do that, but I did go to LA, and I got to meet a lot of famous people through him. He's a really good friend.
He is. He's good. I'm nice to him now. You know, I've seen him in passing.
Now that he knows he's not.
But at
my
the time,
boyfriend.
I thought he was trying to get with my mom. So I was being mean. I was being mean as
You're
could be.
You're gonna be mean anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but that was funny. I also told a story the other day. I'll go ahead and tell this now since we're here sitting here. This is awesome too. Give your version of the thing that happened with the boy across the street. Now don't say his name. Whenever he hit Paris when he tried to steal my skateboard.
Oh.
This is on the spot, so you guys can just hear back what I was talking about.
They had two little boys. They were both annoying, but the older one and the younger one would just come in the house, eat food, get a drink, and like we had some rules, like you wash your hands before you get in the refrigerator. They just came right in, opened the refrigerator and touched stuff, and so I'm throwing things out. But
imagine someone just walking in your house, like right now. We're watching this. Somebody just walking in and getting something out of the fridge.
But when it's little kids, and that's what they do, it's like I can deal with it.
And I was still a kid too, but what he did was he
really hurt. Paris had a big gash on her leg, and I didn't know that Spencer was going out after him right then, and I didn't see what happened or transpired or hear Spencer.
I set him up. I got Paris to push him, and then when he ran behind the house, I knocked him down But then what I do after that?
But then their mom came over.
But what I do in the driveway?
You set it on fire, skateboard on fire.
No, not a skateboard. It was. I set it on fire. I put the gasoline and set it on
I
fire and
didn't
told him I was going.
watch him do it,
But
but
that's what his mom came over hollering about.
his mother was, yeah.
She's
so-
like, I'm from West Virginia. We don't play that. Mom's like,
Well, I'm like, I don't play games at all. Here's the deal: we're both parents. You keep your kids on that side of the street, and I'll keep my kids on this side of the street because neither of my kids wanted to go over there anyway. And so anyway, it's just yeah. She came over like I'm supposed to punish my kids, and I'm like, what are you kids doing over here? Start with, and why did they have Spencer's skateboard?
and once Paris got her
And-
whole leg skinned
And
up.
did you see what, take a look at my daughter's leg. So the best way to resolve this is to keep a little distance. And oh boy, did it bring peace to my life. I'm sorry for the incident and the upset, but
Didn't have to deal with that little turd coming in the house
And I
helping
didn't
himself to
have-
whatever you had in the refrigerator.
and I didn't have to deal with their mother.
Yeah, she was annoying too. Like, I don't know, like she tried to act tough or
She
something.
was one of those stay-at-home moms that needed to get a job.
Yeah,
Too much free time.
Now Paris, growing up, I basically gave her a confidence. She knew she anybody messed with her,
Yeah.
I was going to come do something, and it's got her this attitude now where she just, how you worry about somebody when they go somewhere. I don't worry about my
No.
sister. I worry about a lot of people.
Well, and then too, part of it is they were different from birth, and that Spencer was very quiet, introverted, conscientious, and really tried so hard to do all the right things. Paris was going to do whatever she could get by with, and Spencer would try to tell her, do this, don't do that, and guide her, but he really is responsible for giving her so much confidence, so much.
I love it. I'm
He
so
told her
happy about
how
it.
beautiful she was every day, and that she's perfect, and
And if anybody messes with her, come holler at me,
she
and I'll
doesn't
handle
ever
it.
have to. She has protector and,
And she-
everything. So.
Yeah, and it's, something you said, though, just now, too, that I wanted to say. You said that I always did good. Like, I made
I
honor
thought
roll.
he did.
But I did until I didn't, and even when I didn't, I still did with the grades. I always did good
He
in
always
school.
had a good heart and cared about people.
Did I
He
ever study for tests?
never studied straight A's. He breezed through, but
And nobody would guess it because I'm respectful. I was raised with manners, and although I had manners and although I was respectful to teachers, I had this little underground drug organization going on behind the scenes, but nobody could believe it because I didn't fit the stereotype. I wasn't rude. I wasn't trying to act a certain way. It was like,
well, and all through school, the only time there was an issue or the teachers had talked to me usually was because he was defending somebody.
I did.
Well, he didn't even
I
have
did.
a dog in the fight, but if he had this sense of what was fair
if
and
my
what was
if
just.
my friend, there was just go since this one more, it's a good bunch of little stories. There was an issue where my friend we were playing dodgeball, and we had this coach who was a prick, and he threw a ball and he hit this other kid in the face. Well, the coach didn't like him. He didn't like me. He told my friend to stand still with his arms by his side, and he told the other kid throw the ball at his face. So he made and I got in between. I said, no, this isn't right. And I argued for a good minute about it. And my friend said, come on, man, you're embarrassed. Just let it get over with.
Just let him.
And
hit
after
me.
a minute of doing it, and he tried to give us punishments, make us run. We owed him so many miles. I said, I'm not running that. You can call whoever you want. This wasn't right. But anyway, we won't get into that. But anyway, tell more next time. If you liked the video, if you've watched it this far, press the like button. If not, 29 minutes and 3 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. But I hope you liked it. Y'all have a good one.
Bye.